How much credit do you give Mike Brown for this Kings turnaround?
I mean, you got to give them a ton. We've said it a million times, but this is a team that hasn't been to the playoffs in almost 2 decades.
Talladega Nights was in
Yeah.
theaters.
I mean, there's just so much nasty history there in Sacramento. I'm, one of the last regular season games, they were trying to close it out, and I think the announcer comes on the PA is like, "This is the biggest possession in the history of basketball about to come up, so the Kings can clinch." But nah, I think you got to give Mike credit for two big things. I think one, from the moment he stepped into Sacramento, he said, I'm going to hold De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis accountable for playing defense. And he did it publicly. He did it with playing time. We saw a few times early on. He was pulling those guys out of games because they weren't playing defense. And I think setting that standard is a big reason why you see them defending the Warriors the way they are right now. And I think those guys kind of led the charge with that. And I think Mike Brown was the one that really put that on their mind and let them know we're not going to go anywhere unless our two best players are playing defense. And then two, I think you've seen Mike Brown evolve as a coach. He's known for being a defensive-minded guy. He's known for, even when he won that Coach of the Year with the Cavs, he was known for having a really basic offense. It was always LeBron at the top of the key playing 1-on-5. And now you see they're playing this warrior style where everybody's moving, everybody's cutting. Sabonis is putting up 7, 8 assists every single night. So I think you've seen his evolution as a coach, and you've seen him really help De'Aaron Fox bring his game to another level, not just the way he's playing, but the way he's leading. And I think Mike Brown kind of called him to the carpet to do that this year.
Yeah, Jay, I think this is a example where we always just assume coaches coach the way they do, right? And there is no evolution. But I think Mike Brown is a great example that, like, no, coaches, like the good coaches, the right coaches will evolve as times evolve. And he went to Golden State and he learned a ton. And as Will said, you see him applying a lot of that on the Kings.
And it's also a lesson that we probably shouldn't judge every coach just by the style they use each year.
Yeah.
Like people thought he was a bad offensive coach because he wasn't super creative with like Ira Newble and Sasha Pavlovich in the starting lineup. But that's serious. And now with this particular job, I just felt like he was so great at carving out this team's identity. Those Kings play so fast, which takes advantage of De'Aaron Fox. Like, he's one of the fastest guys. Their transition is just a blur. Like, if you just don't pay attention to the game for half a second. I was watching Kings Celtics earlier this year, and like, I take notes during possessions, and I would start to take a note, and it would just be like the possession was over. That was it. And normally I could do that, and I look up, and they're not even at half court.
Yeah.
So that was one thing he did. And then the other thing is like taking advantage of Sabonis's passing and playmaking and all of that, all the dribble handoffs that they run. He made a beautiful, beautiful offense. And then he had to change them from being a losing franchise to make those guys believe. Fox had never experienced winning in the NBA. Sabonis had done it to like some extent in Indiana on like some mildly decent teams. They lost their first 4 games of the season. Like, this wasn't a job where he came in and they had immediately had success. He had to convince those guys to believe, to buy in, to stay with him this whole time. I just think he did an incredible job. He learned a lot, it seems, from Steve Kerr. But he's always been a great coach. And this is just a lesson that, like, coaches aren't always what their players make them do.